Hey, how's it going? This is Sam Sauter from westchannelmedia.com. We manage a ridiculous amount of money every single month profitably on paid advertising spend for clients in 25 different industries. We've had the privilege now of working with billion-dollar fund managers, SaaS companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars in spend, some of the biggest coaches, consultants, and brands in the online info marketing space, agencies, pretty much everything under the sun. Been doing this close to a decade now. In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about Google search ads. So one of our key strategic partners at my agency manages about $1 million per month profitably in spend. They handle the media buying predominantly for our Google advertising strategy. So between their expertise, our in-house expertise, we get clients really great results on PPC and search-based ads. So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about what you should be thinking about if you're structuring a PPC campaign. And for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the term PPC, PPC specifically means your pay-per-click ads. These are the highest intent, highest quality oftentimes traffic sources because it's people actively searching for your solution. The key distinction there is that you're being billed for every single time somebody clicks on the ad. It's not like some of the other interruption-based marketing strategies that you're accustomed to on Facebook, on Meta, on Instagram, on YouTube, to where you're being billed for typically every 1,000 impressions your campaign serves. So the first thing that you want to consider is, when do I use Google search ads? Well, first and foremost, you have to ask yourself, are people searching for your solution? If they're not searching for your solution, I know this sounds obvious, but people ask me this all the time, they're not really searching for it in a meaningful volume, then you can't do Google search ads. You have to do interruption-based advertising, which is totally fine. We do it all day long and it works really well. But the first thing you want to ask yourself is, are people searching for your solution? If you have something that is new, that is innovative, that people wouldn't necessarily even think that they would need, you have to go with some interruption-based platform. So that's LinkedIn, that's Instagram, that's Meta. But assuming your people are searching for your solution, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what is the cost per click of the search terms that you want to bid for are? So typically what you're going to find is that as a whole, Google Ads is much higher quality traffic. It's people actively searching for your solution. They want the solution. All things being equal, same landing page, same buying process, same sales team, everything. The sales cycle is going to be much shorter with Google Ads because of who they are, not because of who you are. They're just in this buying mode where they're ready to make a decision very soon. You're going to find conversely that a lot of leads that come from your interruption-based channels are going to be a little bit more kind of window shopping. They're just a little bit more curious. They're not necessarily buying right this second. So for that reason, you want to factor this into your analysis. You're going to get higher quality, but oftentimes it's much higher price, because as advertisers, we're always competing against other advertisers. And there's a lot of other advertisers that want to show their ads to a specific audience that I want to go after. It drives up the cost for either a click or for an impression. And you have to factor this into your analysis, and you have to do very detailed financial modeling to kind of ascertain, do I think the unit economics work for my business on this platform to be profitable in the first 30 days? So what does that mean? Well, first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to Google Search Term Report. You're going to run a simple report on all the relevant keywords and searches related to your business, and you're going to want to see what the cost per click looks like. Okay, here's an example of a simple search term report that we pulled in the wealth management industry. What you're going to find is that all of these specific phrases have different levels of competition, from low to medium to high. They have a different level of cost per click. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to look at this monthly search volume, and you're going to want to assume that about 3 to about 6% of people will click on your ad if you're doing things properly. So let's say that there's 1,000 monthly searches, a 5% click-through rate. That's going to bring you 50 unique clicks to your website, a 20% landing page conversion rate. You might be able to pull 10 leads per month from 1,000 monthly searches for that specific query. Now, if the cost per click is very equal to what you're paying on Facebook, you might actually do a lot better on Google Ads. Okay, there's some instances where Google search ads are $30, $50, $100 for a click in some instances. On Facebook, typically you're not paying anywhere near that type of cost for a particular click. But just to give you an idea, you want to first kind of get an idea on what's the level of competition in that industry. If things are similar in terms of the cost per click raises, it's not super competitive, the keywords look very relevant to your business, I'd probably advise you start with Google search ads, because it's going to be easier for your sales team to convert, shorter buying cycle. These people are going to be a lot more bought in. They're going to show up on the 80-yard line is the analogy I like to give to my clients. If end zone and a touchdown is a conversion event happening for your business as a sale, Google search ads, those people are going to show up at the 80-yard line, versus somebody that comes from YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. They might show up at the 40, 50-yard line, that kind of curiosity kind of phase. And then right around that 20-yard line, they're kind of like serious buyer mode intent. They're going to make a decision. You get to start there with Google search ads. So if the costs are similar, I'd advise starting with Google search ads. The last thing you have to ask yourself is, what is your desire for scale? So look at all of your kind of monthly search volume for the related queries, and you have to ask yourself, am I comfortable with this level of scale? Because Facebook's going to be much more scalable if you can get it, because there's no prerequisite for a particular search for you in order to serve your ad to that audience. Facebook ads, you're literally just turning an eyeball into $1 effectively. Versus on these search advertising platforms, you have this prerequisite that they need to be searching for that. And there's typically only so many searches for any particular term, and you have to create a specific ad for a particular set of searches and send them to a a specific landing page that references what they're searching for. And then what you do is you get a proof of concept and you say, okay, this path this year really converts really well. You scale it up until what's called the impression share is maxed out. The impression share is a measure of the total amount of queries. What percentage of those does your ad show up for? Once it gets to about 80-90% impression share, it starts to get pretty expensive. You're out. You have to find a new pocket of traffic and try and monetize that. So you're kind of scaling with Google search ads through these different channels, these different pockets. It's much more difficult. It's much more complicated versus some of these interruption platforms. It's not uncommon for a lot of people to scale to $1 million per month very quickly with one ad, one message, one concept, because there's no prerequisite for a search. All you're really doing is you're turning an eyeball into a dollar fundamentally, versus on Google search ads, you have to kind of make all these different pockets and all these different channels and all these separate conversion paths in order to make it convert. Another thing to keep in mind with Google search ads is very important that you own your own keywords. So you want to own your company name, your book name, your podcast, very specific brand related terms to your business. Okay. These are the highest intent, most highest quality traffic sources. These are people that are actively searching for your brand. And oftentimes when we get into an advertising account, even if the business is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, what we find is that they don't own those terms and their competitors are actually oftentimes poaching that traffic. Okay. I'm sure you've seen an example of this where you search for a particular software, but then the competitor softwares actually appear above that and it sends them to a landing page that compares what you originally searched for solution and their solution. So it's very, very important that you own your own keywords. These are the most bought in people. Don't let them slip through the cracks and be poached by another competitors. The next thing that we should talk about is phrase match, exact match, and broad match targeting. So I'll let you guys Google this on your own. There's a bunch of other tutorials that talk about that, but the common mistake that we always find when we're analyzing accounts is that people are starting with broad match targeting. Broad match will group in all of these other related searches that may or may not have something to do with your business. It's much easier, in my opinion, to start with phrase match or exact match. You will either get no spend or you will get the exact right type of click that you know that is perfect for your business. Or so I'd much rather start with phrase match or even exact match. 90% of the time we're starting with exact match. Typically clients don't get mad at you if you don't spend their money. They do get mad when you spend their money and there's no results. So we like to start with exact match, trying to make that work so we know exactly what we're going to get. If you do expand to broad match and you are more concerned about scale potential, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to check every single day your search term report. What this is going to do, your search term report, is it's going to tell you every single day what searches specifically triggered your ad to be displayed on. And what you're probably going to find is if you're using broad match, that there's going to be a ton of searches that your ad got shown to that had nothing to do with your product or service. So you want to be constantly checking that, and you want to be adding in negative keywords to ensure that in the future, you're not paying for a query that is very similar to that, and you're not being billed for a query that makes no sense. At this point now of doing this for over a decade, and my partners and myself spending millions and millions of dollars on Google search ads, we have case studies and testimonials in damn near every single industry. So if we come into your business and we add a really, really in-depth negative keyword list on day one, then you're able to prevent yourself from ever experiencing and ever having your precious ad spend being allocated to queries that don't make sense. Because it's kind of unfortunate. After that search term report comes out and you see a query that you don't like, you're fixing it for the future, but you've already been billed for it, so it's not really that effective. Versus if you have some strategic partner ahead of time that knows all the common pitfalls of your particular industry, that can add that negative keyword list from day one, you're preventing yourself from being billed to show your ad to places that make no sense for your business. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about writing headlines for your Google search ads. What you're going to find is that there's different headlines, and what Google is going to do and what the AI is going to do is it's going to shuffle and mix and match different permutations of those short headlines that you write. Now, what you want to be very, very cognizant of, and what we will see all the times we're analyzing big Google Ads accounts, even companies spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, is that they are not pinning specific headlines to certain positions in the ad. So what does this mean? What you don't want to have happen is for Facebook to shuffle, mix and match different combinations, different permutations, and to have two redundant headlines appearing side by side. AI is still not at the point yet to where it will be able to pick that up on its own, but you have to be very, very clear that you typically want to pin headline position 1, pin headline position 2, pin headline position 3. You just want to be super clear that it doesn't come across as jumbled, look weird, or appear strange to the end user by having two very closely related terms in the same line. And pro tip, make sure that when you're writing your first headline position, it references exactly what was mentioned in the search term query. People want to feel as though that you have the exact solution for exactly what they have searched for, okay? And you have to use their same verbiage. Even if you know objectively it's the same thing, to the prospect it might be a very, very different thing. I mean, so in sales and persuasion, what they always talk about is to use the same language as your prospect is, okay? You want to relate with them, meet with them where they're at, so to speak. So I see a lot of Google advertising accounts, and for headline position 1, their most prime, valuable real estate, the first thing that the prospect is going to see after they search for their solution, and it's like a term that's like kind of similar to what they search for, but not perfectly identical to what they're searching searching for. So it's a big mistake. Make sure that your ad group, which is basically a group of keywords that are all similar, are very, very specific to what that prospect was searching for. So for instance, if you sell in the pet niche, for instance, you might want to have an ad group, for instance, that is all golden retriever related searches, and then have an ad that is specifically in the first headline position saying golden retriever. Don't have it just say dog and try and treat the husky search query and the golden retriever search query and send it to the same ad. You want to have one group of keywords that are all related, that are all about huskies, one group that is all about German shepherds, one that's all around golden retrievers, and make sure that that ad that group is being served mentions the golden retrievers. And if you want to be a pro like we are with most of our clients, you actually send them to a landing page that explicitly explains the benefits of not all the dogs, but just for the German shepherd breed, just for the husky breed. That's how you're scaling with Google search ads, is through these different pockets, these different channels, these different threads, these different veins of traffic. Versus on Facebook, it's typically one core message, one core landing page, one core funnel. So it doesn't offer the same scale potential, but it's incredibly high quality search-based and high intent-based traffic. If you have a phone sales team from Google search ads, they might be really bad at sales and have very, very short cash conversion cycles and have very, very short sales cycles. So what is a cash conversion cycle? Well, if you're an advertiser, the most concerning metrics and the most important metrics that you should be paying attention to is what's your return on ad spend and what's your cash conversion cycle. Your return on ad spend is, I get $1 in, $6 out. That's a 6-to-1 return on ad spend. Your cash conversion cycle is how long does that take? If it takes you 10 years to recoup that $6 back, that's a very, very different business than somebody who does it every 15 days. Because fundamentally with advertising, you have that arbitrage in terms of what it costs for the media and what the customer is worth for you. And then the cash conversion cycle dictates how fast the compounding will happen. So if the cash conversion cycle, the sales cycle is 15 days versus 30 days, it basically means the money's going to compound every 15 days versus 30 days. And remember, like all compounding, it's not a linear equation, it's an exponential equation. So if you're able to shorten the sales cycle length by 50%, that doesn't improve the business 50%. It could be 3, 4, 500% difference in the business. Does that make sense? And with Google search ads, you're always going to find that shorter sales cycle and a higher conversion event. The big if that you have to take into account is how competitive is it though? Because if it's a higher quality lead by 40, 50%, but you have to pay 10 times more in your particular niche, in your particular geographic region, then the arbitrage isn't really there in my eyes. Another thing to keep in mind when you're running Google search ads is use extensions. You want to take up as much space as humanly possible on your Google search ads. You can have a very poor Google search ad like the one I'm flashing to here, or you can have a Google search ad that uses extensions. This is where you reference other page links on your website, and you can also include images. For the same price, you can take up much more real estate, garner a lot more attention, and you're going to find that your click-through rate actually meaningfully improves if you're kind of a much bigger surface area. And what that's going to do if your click-through rate is higher is your actual bid is going to have to be lower. If Google is sensing that, hey, people really like this ad is very relevant to what they're searching for, the Google algorithm is actually going to reward you by giving you a lower required bid in order to get in front of that audience. And one last pro tip, you can actually reduce your required bid that you need just by improving your page load speed. So typically what we're doing when we're working with a client is when we're building out their funnel is we start by using kind of one of the popular drag and drop tools on the market. We'll use Webflow or Go High Level or ClickFunnels or something like that. But once we feel like there's diminishing returns on future split tests, what we then do is we will run another split test where we try and improve the page load speed meaningfully, and we code the page that we have already identified on pure HTML. We upload it onto our own server. We can typically drop page load time by 40, 50, sometimes 80% oftentimes by having it on our own server. And what that's going to do is it's going to drop your required bid by 30 or 40% oftentimes. Google wants to have a great end experience to the user. If your landing page has a poor relevance score, meaning it has nothing to really do, the copy doesn't match what they're searching for, or the paid load is really bad, that causes a poor user experience for the Google user. And Google fundamentally wants to monetize those searches to us advertisers and sell those slots to advertisers, but not at the expense of sacrificing the consumer experience for using the platform. So as a marketer, if you can understand those incentives from Google, make your landing page load faster, make your relevance score higher by having it relate more to the query or the initial search, then you're going to be punished and you're going to pay less money for more exposure. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today on Google search ads from myself and our key strategic partners spending millions of dollars per month on that platform and doing it very successfully now for close to a decade. If you're watching this and you have a business doing more than $50,000 to $100,000 per month in revenue, would love it if you'd schedule a consultation below. Somebody on our team will reach out to you. They can do a full analysis on your business and suggest a solution for how we would help you grow through either Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads. We are omni-channel experts. We pride ourselves on being very, very good at core 3, which we think of as Google. You can break that into sub buckets, which is Google Display Network, Google Search, YouTube, and then you have LinkedIn, which is a very important platform. We have different videos about LinkedIn on this channel, and obviously Facebook and Meta. So between all those platforms, managing hundreds of thousands of dollars per month profitably for our clients, We'd really love to talk to you about how we could help you grow through adding one of those channels to what's already working for you, or just taking over a channel that you know isn't performing as well as it should be. And the last thing I'll say is, even if you're not doing $50,000 to $100,000 per month and you're not qualified for our done for you agency solution, we offer some consulting packages to people that aren't quite at that revenue, that aren't quite ready for us yet. So regardless, fill out your information below. We will just try and help you out. And if we can't help you out, we'll point you in the right direction of somebody who can. So anyway, I hope this was valuable for you guys. I'll talk to you soon and see you in the next video. Thanks.